Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is the political season. We have an election coming up, and we're going to be voting in many, many different categories. And one of the very important contests that is going to be taking place this year concerns, as they say, down ballot. I don't love that term because on some level, I think it implies that these congressional elections are somehow less important than the presidential election. And of course, if you are a student of politics and governance, you know that that is not the case at all. We have had some debate happening between two opponents who opposed once before in the last congressional election. My guest this evening is back. He is switching, not really switching, but he ran as an independent last time. He is running under the Democratic ticket for Congress. He is opposing Republican Jason Chaffetz, and he is a longtime friend of the program and guest on this show. It's always a pleasure to welcome him back. Please enjoy my conversation with Stephen Tryon. How are you, brother?
Hey, thank you
for having me. Good to see you, man.
It's great to be on.
You look like $1 million.
Thank you.
And I don't mind saying so.
As
thanks,
do you.
Man.
It's always great to be on the show. And so thanks so much for having me up. And it's an important time of year.
It is a very important time of year. I think that on some level, I feel like this race that you're currently engaged in is on a higher profile, and people are more aware in this particular presidential election season, maybe than the last time around. I'm curious what your feeling is, what your take is in opposing Jason Chaffetz for a second time, and being out there on the campaign trail. What has been your sense? What are you hearing from folks?
Well, first of all, I told the people at our debate last Wednesday night that I'm running against Jason Chaffetz because it's my duty. I feel it is my duty to present a competent, credible alternative to someone who, frankly, I don't feel is a good public servant. And this election has certainly put a fine point on public service, and the Republican Party, I think, has basically disintegrated. And the Donald Trump at the top of their ticket is
been very difficult for a lot of Republicans.
Well, it's the closest thing to Hitler that I've seen on the American political scene in my life. And I am scared that the Republican Party, I've been a Republican in my life. So it bothers me a great deal that this is who the Republican Party would put forward. And what bothers me more, and I said this at the debate as well, is that Congressman Chaffetz endorsed this guy. He endorsed Donald Trump. And we all knew Donald Trump's character. The revelation of the misconduct that came out when the videotape was published, that told us what we all knew. That confirmed what we all knew.
Well, and I would say, though, that the flip side of that is that and of course I have, as I'm sure you do as well, I have a lot of dear friends who are Republicans, and I know because of conversations that I've had with them, and of course we know via the news media that this has been a very difficult and in some ways a crisis of conscience for so many Republicans, and especially in the great state of Utah, where there are a lot of folks that are a part of the GOP for whom the kind of living morally, ethically, with integrity and character, with kindness to one's fellow man, regardless of political opposition, has been a very difficult season. But of course, I appreciate and understand that your position in this particular situation, and especially with respect to the congressional race, it must force you to say some things. And we've known one another for a while. I know you to be a man of kindness and of restraint when it comes to the way that you speak. Talk a little bit about what this experience. It's easy to oppose Jason Chaffetz, but we have friends and neighbors who are struggling with this.
But again, to go back, At the debate, they asked us a question. They asked us
Yeah,
if we
absolutely.
supported the top
Fair
of our
enough.
ticket.
Absolutely.
And I
Fair
answered that
enough.
question.
Yeah.
I answered that question, and I gave a reason for it. I do support Hillary Clinton. I've worked with Hillary Clinton before. I've taken senior leaders from the Pentagon to Senator Clinton's office, Secretary Clinton, Senator Clinton at the time. Right. I worked with her when I was on my Senate fellowship with her staff and with her office. So I'm comfortable that Secretary Clinton is not the person that Congressman Chaffetz has portrayed her to be.
Right.
She is a good public servant, and she is not the evil person that he has portrayed her to be. And so I made the point that I think he's intentionally mischaracterized her in order to serve his party.
Right.
And I think he's put his party in front of the country, and I don't think that's right. But Jason did not answer the question. He did not answer the question whether he would vote for Donald Trump. He sidestepped that. So I want that answer for the people of Utah. I think the Republicans of Utah deserve to know, is Jason Chaffetz going to vote for Donald Trump, or who is he going to vote for? I've answered the question. We're talking about being a public servant here and being transparent. I want Jason Chaffetz to answer that question. And there's a second question, and it's looming, because the House Freedom Caucus is threatening, or is seriously considering,
right,
vacating the chair, proposing a motion to vacate the chair during the lame duck session, which means they would try to do to Paul Ryan what they did to John Boehner in the last time we went through this cycle. And if that is going to happen, then the people of Utah deserve to know, where is Jason Chaffetz on that? Is Jason Chaffetz going to support a motion to vacate the chair? Is he going to oppose Paul Ryan and stand with the Freedom Caucus, or is he going to support Paul Ryan? The Republicans in Utah should be insisting on those answers. They should know. And frankly, I think what the House Freedom Caucus is proposing is crazy. I hope, as an American, that they don't do this, because it would throw the Republican Party into more disarray than what it's in already, and it would threaten our ability to pass a continuing resolution, which we're going to have to pass. So there's a lot of reasons why we should be concerned, and it's time for Jason Chaffetz to step up and answer some questions. Two questions: who are you voting for president, and what's your position on supporting Paul Ryan if there's a motion to vacate the chair in the lame duck session?
Let's talk about your platform, the planks in the conversations that you've been having, that you've been proposing to prospective voters. You've been through this once before. Yeah. It felt as though, in some ways, you were preparing for this cycle the last time around. And of course, I know that every person who takes the time and the substantial effort to seek public office, and in this case, in the all-important United States Congress. That being said, things are a little bit different this time around. You've had a series of debates. Let's talk about where you're at, and let's do a compare and contrast according to the issues that are the really key decision variables for voters in this election cycle.
Well, one of them you've alluded to is that I've tried to have a series of debates. I've actually only had one debate with Jason because he wouldn't come to any of the other places where I wanted to debate him. So I've only had one real debate with him. But I have shown up in Price, Utah, and I've been opposed by representatives of his office or been unopposed. But so that's one point. But really, the big difference, I think, the most important difference for the people of Utah and the people of the 3rd District is economics. We've got to get this economy growing again, and the Republican Party platform is 180 degrees out from the right way to do that. They're proposing the same bromides that they always propose: cut taxes, and it's gonna cause the economy to grow. Well, that's what crashed the economy in 2008, and it's not the right, I want to use my chart here in a minute, it's not the right prescription for the economy that we're in now. We have an economy where we need to stimulate consumption from the private sector. President Obama has done his best to stimulate consumption because we needed that. Right. The only way he's been able to do it is with the public sector, because the Congress has been obstructing everything he's tried to do otherwise.
Which is an ongoing issue that continues to plague government, not just the Congress, because
Right.
we're talking about working across the branches of government. If I can, I'm gonna stick a pin in it for just a moment, Stephen. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll continue on this conversation.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're going to be right back. More with Stephen Tryon after this. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. We're talking about the upcoming election, specifically the tilt between my guest, Stephen Tryon, from the Democratic Party, and Jason Chaffetz, longtime Republican and inhabitant of the United States Congress. It should be an interesting election day. Welcome back.
Well, it's great to be here. And we left off talking about the economy.
Yes.
And there are two things. I said that we have to stimulate private sector consumption. And the way to do that is to fix Social Security the right way. Why is fixing Social Security important? Well, the fastest growing demographic in America is our seniors.
It's our aging population.
Republicans want to cut Social Security benefits. That's their way of fixing, of making the Social Security trust fund solvent. You know, the trustee report that came out here this last year said that in 2034, the Social Security Trust Fund will be insolvent. It won't be able to meet its requirements. So we have to do something. Republicans are proposing raising the retirement age, cutting cost of living allowances, basically cutting benefits
Squeezing.
by at least 25%. And
Wow.
that's not
Big
how you
number.
stimulate consumption. That's not how you stimulate private sector consumption when seniors are your fastest growing demographic. So I'm proposing that we fix Social Security by removing the income cap. Right now, 94% of Americans, the 94% who make the least, pay Social Security tax on 100% of the dollars that they earn. The wealthiest 6% pay a smaller effective rate because once they go past $118,500, they stop paying Social Security tax. So that's the 6% of the American economy that earn the most. They pay less than their 6% share of Social Security. And what I'm proposing is everybody pays 6% on every dollar that they earn. That would solve 71% of the shortfall. It would help us preserve the full benefit without taxing the poorest and the middle class. It would just impact the people who can afford it, frankly, the top 6%. So that's one way to stimulate private sector consumption without hurting the middle class or the economy. And the second way is to raise the minimum wage. And you know, we've put this number of $15 an hour on the table. That's a target. Like everything in Washington, you set an aggressive target and then you compromise and you work. That's not where you know, nobody is saying let's do that immediately. At least I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's start with a gradual increase. We have to watch the impact that it's going to have on small businesses. I understand business a bit. I've run some operations and some profit and loss statements. I've been responsible for some things, so I understand how to balance costs and revenues. And so by raising the minimum wage, you're going to be giving the poorest Americans dollars that they will spend. We've proven this time and again. Middle-class Americans at the lower end of the spectrum, they have things they need to buy, and they will spend the dollars that we've given them, and that will stimulate private sector consumption. It will grow GDP. It will create additional demand. Now, we will have to be careful with small businesses to ensure that the cost of paying the payroll doesn't hurt their businesses in the short term, but we can do that. You know, we can manage that until the virtuous cycle starts, and then we get this spiraling upward demand, of increasing demand, and that's how we get the economy growing again.
And I want to focus on one thing that you said in the midst of that statement that I'm encouraged by, but I also feel very strongly about, and that is that these positions that you take, that every candidate takes during the process of the elections is key. It's important. However, the fact that what we need you or Jason Chaffetz to do is to go to Washington and to work together.
Right.
And I am tired. I am tired of obstructionism in the political system, and I know I speak for a lot of people, I'm happy to highlight that that's something that you mentioned in the midst of that statement, and I hope that the future for this country includes public servants who are willing to look across the aisle at fellow Americans who are so fortunate to get to go to the United States Congress and work together.
Well, it's a matter of putting the country in front of party and in front of self. And I brought this up in my debate. And I think, you know, I'm very proud to have earned the Salt Lake Tribune's, the Salt Lake Tribune has endorsed me for this campaign.
That's a big deal.
And I'm very proud of that. And I think that they were looking at the same thing. They were looking at, you know, Jason's been there for 8 years, and he has a record of not.
Right.
Even though he says he's bipartisan, I don't think he is. I don't think he's been the person who reaches across the aisle as much as he should have. And looking forward, I think almost certainly, I'm certainly praying that President Hillary Clinton, will be taking the oath of office in January. And I don't think Jason Chaffetz will be able to work with President Clinton. I don't think he'll be able to get anything done. So the choice of the people of Utah is, do you want a congressman who's worked with Senator Clinton when she was a senator, and whose policies and programs and ideas for fixing Social Security are in alignment? We can fix Social Security. Or do we want to leave the House in Republican hands, in which case we're condemning ourselves to another 2 years of doing nothing and simply fighting against the president. And that's not what America needs. America needs forward progress. We need a team that's going to work in a unified way to do what's best for all of us. And I'm the person who can do that. Congressman Chaffetz isn't.
I wish we had more time. I think I say that every time we get together. I say, at the end of our conversation, I say, I wish we had more time. I know you've got a ton of information, of detail, of policy specifics, and I guess the best thing that I can do right now is give you the opportunity to tell folks where to go, not only on social media, but also in person for upcoming appearances, that sort of thing, so that we can continue to get folks in touch with you.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to be at a Meet the Candidates night in Heber tomorrow night at 7 p.m. So that's one thing. And then, of course, online, tryonforcongress.com, and Facebook, which is really where most of the action happens. Stephen P. Tryon for Congress. Stephen P. Tryon for Congress. And all my programs on Social Security and other policies are all up there. And you can message me if you have questions, and I'm happy to answer those.
And I can say that Stephen is a responsive guy. We've had a great association over the years, and it's my pleasure to have this opportunity to give you a voice in a state that doesn't necessarily always isn't as receptive or as attentive to Democratic candidates. And as I like to say, I'm not a journalist.
Right.
And so I get to host this program in a way that feels right to me, and it's great to have you here. No matter what happens, we appreciate the effort that you are making to continue to be of service as you have been for decades.
Well, thanks for letting me be here, Terry. And I'm a Democrat that's interested in taking care of the people of the 3rd District, all of the people of the 3rd District, not just the Democrats in the 3rd District, all the people. And I know how to do that. You know, as a soldier, I took care of the people in my units, and I can take care of the people in the 3rd District if I'm given the opportunity to do that.
Well, we appreciate you being here. I very much appreciate the amount of effort and work that goes into mounting a campaign and a challenge to an incumbent in a state like this. We wish you the very best.
Thanks so much.
For continued energy on the stump.
Thank you.
And personally, I hope we'll be seeing you take an oath of office as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great to see you.
It's great to see you.
Stephen Tryon, candidate for Congress. Take your time, review the issues, review the candidates' positions, vote your conscience. In any case, vote. We'll take a break. Melody and the Breakups are here. It's going to be all about my girl Melody Pulsifer in the second half of the show. Please stay tuned. We're going to rock.